is Destiny. My matric number is 279282. Today, our group will present about the Malaysian Consumer Protection Act 1999. So for me, I will present about the part of introduction. So this act goes into effect on November 15, 1999, so to provide for consumer protection as well as the formation of National Consumer Advisory Council and the Tribunal for Consumer Claims. So it applies to all goods and service offered for supply or apply to one or more consumer in the commerce. So the purpose of this act is to protect the consumer. So the act forbids misleading and deceiving conduct, false representation, and unfair practice that could lead to consumer error. So it also includes provisions for unfair contract terms and offences relating to those provisions. So the act provides for guarantee in the supply of goods and services, as well as the right against suppliers and manufacturers in the supply of goods and services. So the act also establishes the National Consumer Advisory Council, so the Committee on Advertisement, and the Tribunal for Consumer Claims. So in the Section 22G of the Consumer Protection Act 1999 is excludes the electronic transactions from its scope. So during the arts debate, the minister assumed that electronic commerce would be governed by other cyber laws, thus exclude it from the Consumer Protection Act of 1999. So as a result, the Consumer Protection Act excluded software and service purchase over the internet. So the existing law applicable to internet sales transactions would be the Sales of Goods Act 1957 and the Contracts Act 1950. So the foreign consumer rights are essentially protected by the often mentioned laws and the guidelines. So there's the right to basic needs, the right to safety, the right to choose, the right to be informed, the right to be heard, and the right to be redressed.
My name is Sunjamin, matric number 279433. Now I will present about the content of Consumer Protection Act 1999. Consumer Protection Act 1999 covering almost every aspect of consumer protection, which include preliminary, misleading and deceptive conducts, false representation and unfair practice, safety of goods and services, unfair contract terms, credit sales transaction, offences, defences and remedies relation to Part 2 and 3, guarantees in respect of supply of goods, right against suppliers in respect of guarantees in the supply of goods, right against manufacturers in respect of guarantees in the supply of goods, guarantees in respect of supply of services, right against suppliers in respect of guarantees in the supply of services, product liability, the National Consumer Advisory Council and Committee on Advertisement, the Tribunal for Consumer Claims, enforcement, and lastly, general and miscellaneous. National Consumer Policy (NVP) is established on 26 July 2002. It is to focus on a culture of self-protection practices by consumers, self-regulation by dealer or manufacturer, and achieve an effective level of consumer protection that can provide an environment conducive to creating fair and sustainable development in line with local economic development and global. Besides, it is to enhance the quality of life, protect the consumer, to emphasize the culture of consumerism and sustainable production, to minimize the impact of globalization on consumer, business, and government, to create a community of users who adopt self-protection culture, and lastly, to create awareness among consumers. Tribunal for Consumer Claim is an independent judicial body established under Consumer Protection Act 1999 with the primary function of hearing and determining claims lodged by consumers. Tribunal for Consumer Claims was established to provide an alternative platform apart from the civil courts for consumers to claim the losses in respect of goods purchases or services acquired from the traders or service providers in a small, cheap and fast manner. Jurisdiction of the tribunal consists of a chairman and a deputy chairman who are officers from the judicial and legal service and not less than 5 other members of the tribunal appointed by the minister. The tribunal has jurisdiction to hear any claim for redress of any goods or services as provided under the jurisdiction of the tribunal, a claim based on a cause of action which accrues within 3 years of the claim, and any claim in respect of any matter within its jurisdiction under Consumer Protection Act 1999.
Hi, my name is Malaysian and matrix number 279690. Now I will explain about the importance of Consumer Protection Act 1999. The importance of consumer protection has two viewpoints. One from the point of view of consumer and another one is point of view of the businessman. From viewpoint of the consumer, there are consumer ignorance, unorganized consumer sector, and widespread exploitation of consumer. On another hand, from viewpoint of businessmen, there are businessmen use society resources, social responsibility, government intervention, and consumer is the purpose of the business. Now, let us understand one by one. First is unorganized consumer. There are many types of consumer are not organized. Consumer need to be organized in the form of consumer organization which will take care of their interests. Consumer protection provide power and rights to this organization as this organization can file a case behalf of customer. Next is widespread exploitation of consumer. There is a lot of consumer exploitation because firms utilize numerous unfair trade practices to treat and abuse customer. Consumer protection protect customer from such abuse. Last is consumer ignorance. It raises consumer awareness of the numerous redressal authority available to protect the rights. Consumer also lack of knowledge about their legal rights and remedies. Under businessman point of view, businessmen use society resource. Businesses make use of the asset of the community providing goods and service to the general public, allow them to make a profit. They must use these resources for customer benefit. Next is social responsibility. Consumer has a responsibility to their businessmen. Entrepreneurs are responsible for providing high quality goods and service at an affordable price. Consumer rights guide businesses to act in a socially responsible manner. Third is government intervention. If businesses want to stay out of government's way, they should not do things that are unfair to other businesses. Businessmen should take a voluntary role in initiatives that define the consumer interest. Last is consumer is the purpose of business. The main goal of business is to get more and more customer and keep them for a long time. To get more customer, businesses need to make their customer happy and protect their interests. Next, I will talk about advantage of consumer protection. First is unfair trade practice. Adopting unfair method or deception to promote sales, use, or supply of good or service. Misleading consumer about price and another good or service. Falsely claiming a sponsorship and approval. Last is offering misleading warranty or guarantee to consumer. Second is restrictive trade practice. Supplying only particular distributor or on condition of sale only within a territory. Delaying in supplying good or service leading to rise in price. And requiring a customer to buy or hire any good or service as a precondition for buying another good or service. Next is defect. Any defect, imperfection, or insufficiency in the quality, quantity, potency, purity, or standard needed to be maintained by or under any law in force at the time or under any state or implicit contract or as claimed by the merchant in connection with any commodities. Last is deficiency. Any fault, imperfection, shortcoming, or inadequacy in the quality, nature, or manner of performance which is required to be maintained by or under any law for the time being in force or has been undertaken to be performed by a person in pursuance of a contract or otherwise is in relation to any service.
Hi, my name is Wong Chi-wen and I'm now going to present about the recommendation for the Malaysian Consumer Protection Act 1999. Firstly, consumer right allocations, notably the freedom of consumer to combine and form organizations to speak for and promote their common interests. There are certain rights that should be safeguarded. Firstly is the right to select and return dangerous items or faulty products that be received by the consumer. Secondly is the right to give enough and clear information about the goods and services provided by the seller. Next, it would be the right to be protected against items, processes, and service that may endanger the consumer health and life. Last but not least, is the right to non-discriminatory treatments by the seller or provider. The second recommendation that I would like to present is about consumers should have confidence in the provision of goods and services under consumer regulations. First, is an implicit guarantee of rights. Secondly, an implied promise that there will be no unexpected increase in the prices of the goods or services provided. Last but not least, is an implied warranty for repair and spare components for certain goods. That is all the presentation about the recommendation of the Consumer Protection Act 1999. Next, we will move to conclusion. As we have reached the end of the presentation, I will be presenting the conclusion of the Consumer Protection Act 1999. In conclusion, the Consumer Protection Act of 1999 is the most detailed consumer protection policies. It establishes the tribunal devoted entirely to client claims. The legislation also included manipulative and misleading behavior, misrepresentations and unfair practice, product liability, the National Consumer Advisor Council, and the Tribunal of Consumer Claims, as well as product and services protections and delivery guarantee. That's all from my group. Thank you.